accordingly, I call this meeting of the Indigenous and Northern Affairs Committee to order and start that. I acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin people, for those in Ottawa. For my location, it is the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Chinantan First Nations. The committee is meeting to continue its study for support for Indigenous communities through a second wave of COVID-19. And the best practices for the next part of our meeting, please look down at the bottom center of your screen and you'll see a little globe. And when you touch on that globe, you'll see off English or French. So at that point, you would select the language that you wish to speak in and wish to hear. And in my case, now I have it on English. If I were to change, I would move it to French. But please note that. When speaking, please speak slowly and clearly. When not speaking, your mic should be on mute. And the issue of all of this technology and microphones and so on is for accuracy for the interpretation. Without a proper interpretation, the meeting can't legally proceed. So we need to have everyone being heard properly and being interpreted properly. And so with that, by video conference for the first hour, we have the following witnesses. And that is Chief Brian Mark will be joining us, but we do have Angeline Gillis, Jana McKay, and Amber McLean-Hawes from the Confederacy of Mainland Mi'kmaq, and Professor Debbie Martin appearing as an individual. So welcome to everyone. And I now invite Angeline, Jana, and Amber. I'm not sure who's going to start, but please go ahead for 6 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The Confederacy of Mainland Mi'kmaq would first like to acknowledge and commend the swift action taken by Nova Scotia community leadership to proactively lock down their communities at the start of the pandemic. Some communities closed borders and had checkpoints for entry, implemented community-wide curfews, and shifted to offering essential services only in the early days of the pandemic. Undoubtedly, this strong leadership helped convey the seriousness of the situation, the importance of following provincial public health guidelines, and contributed to no reported cases of COVID-19 in our First Nation communities. The Confederacy of Mainland Mi'kmaq, or the CMM, is a tribal council organization representing the 8 Mi'kmaq communities of mainland Nova Scotia. Our mission is to proactively promote and assist Mi'kmaq communities' initiatives towards self-determination and enhancement of community. At the CMM, we have an emergency management team. In mid-March, the organization shifted to an emergency management structure. Soon after, daily calls with chiefs and government officials began, which explored issues in the region. Early questions included how do communities access ample PPE and testing supplies, what were considered eligible expenses for various COVID funding envelopes, what were considered essential services, and jurisdictional issues around who was responsible to respond if there was a community outbreak. Some challenges noted here were very long delays in receiving responses to questions, clear communication lines which took too long to be established, and information overload. Eventually, trilateral calls were established between the Nova Scotia First Nation communities, the province of Nova Scotia, and Indigenous Services Canada. As public health is a provincial responsibility, the ability to receive clear responses to questions, direct from Nova Scotia's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Robert Strang, was vital. Existing health disparities were exacerbated by the pandemic. Similar to other Indigenous populations, the Mi'kmaq experienced higher rates of chronic disease, food insecurity, overcrowding in homes, and impaired access to health services, all of which create barriers to employing adequate public health measures. This past August, our communities, along with representatives of provincial and federal governments, came together for a COVID response debriefing session. The primary lessons learned here can be summarized into the following categories: communication, mental health impacts, economic impacts, jurisdictional issues, and human resources. For communication, throughout the pandemic, there's been a lot of information shared, but it was not always coordinated effectively. There was too much information provided to single touch points, such as chiefs, to effectively distribute within the communities. We recommend fully transparent communication lines between communities, all levels of government, and supporting organizations at the start of the decision-making process. In terms of mental health impact, mental health supports were already under-resourced and the pandemic made it worse. When communities started locking down, a trauma-informed and harm reduction approach was used. However, communities observed an increase in drug use and relapse with the added challenge of accessing appropriate services. Even as services began to reopen, the very low capacity that is possible cannot meet the need. We recommend improved access to treatment centers now with a specific focus on youth treatment, appropriate care planning for future treatment center closure, and access to culturally appropriate mental health supports. In terms of economic impact, the funding opportunities made available during the pandemic did not adequately meet Mi'kmaq communities' needs. Communities relied heavily on own source revenue to fill gaps not met by government support programs. First Nation communities were also left out of decisions that would affect the financial livelihood of communities, such as closure of fisheries and gaming. This left communities in debt and uncertain about their financial futures. We recommend increased funding, including economic recovery plans for community-owned source revenue. In terms of jurisdictional issues, the pandemic response has amplified the disconnect between First Nations community bylaws and their enforcement. It is the observation of community leaders that neither federal nor provincial law enforcement would assume authority for community bylaws. We recommend law enforcement respect and support bylaws developed by community leadership. In terms of human resources, the pandemic highlighted the need for improved emergency management support at the local community level. First Nation communities had to pull from already understaffed community-based resources, which contributed to staff burnout and high stress. We recommend targeted funding for permanent emergency management coordinator positions at the local community level. In closing, improved communication, access to more human resources and mental health supports will positively impact health outcomes for Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq when faced with a second wave of COVID-19. Economic recovery plans need to include Mi'kmaq community governments, businesses, and entrepreneurs. First Nation communities will be better prepared for the next wave. However, improvements for increased preparedness will require continued communication and cooperation at all levels of government. Fortunately, the challenges ahead are better understood, staff are better prepared, and agreements are being put in place. Future success in this pandemic requires attention at all levels. We are all in this together. Walaliag.
Thanks very much, and thanks for noting the time almost exactly to the second. And it's important because we need to make sure that we get our rounds of questioning in. And with that, we go to
Monsieur
Professor.
le Président.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chair, I wanted to make a call to order because there was no interpretation. I just wanted to note that so that the situation can be corrected. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Gill, were you on the French line on the global?
En fait, je suis toujours.
I always am, Mr. Chair. I heard the witness very well, but when you were speaking, I hear you just in English.
Il n'y a plus de traduction présente.
There's no interpretation right now.
Ah, là maintenant, je vous entends, oui, très bien.
Oh, now I hear you. Thank you.
We'll continue. Professor Debbie Martin, it's your turn now, and you have 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nakamik and Willalan for the invitation to speak to the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs. I am speaking to you from Mi'kma'ki, which is the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq. I'm a Canada Research Chair in Indigenous Peoples' Health and Wellbeing at Dalhousie University and an Associate Professor of Health Promotion. When people ask me what health promotion is, the best description I've heard is an analogy that has to do with a cliff. Our healthcare system is meant to deal with all of the things that happen at the bottom of the cliff, after people fall off. The ambulance arrives,
Point
they're
d'ordre,
brought
on
to the
n'entend pas
hospital.
Point of order, we don't hear the interpretation at all. And we can't hear the witness.
We'll suspend for a brief moment. Mr. Clerk, can we determine the interpretation issue?
Yes, underway.
Okay, just signal me when we're functional again so we can continue. From the beginning again, Ms. Martin. Go ahead for 6 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Nakamik and Willalan for the invitation to speak to the Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs. I'm speaking to you from Mi'kma'ki, which is the unceded and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq. I'm a Canada Research Chair in Indigenous Peoples' Health and Wellbeing at Dalhousie University and an Associate Professor of Health Promotion. When people ask me what health promotion is, the best description I've heard is an analogy that has to do with a cliff. Our healthcare system is meant to deal with all of the things that happen at the bottom of the cliff after people have fallen off. The ambulance arrives, they're brought to the hospital, they get triaged and then treated. The role of health promotion is to prevent people from falling off the cliff in the first place. It might include messaging, physical infrastructure, and policies that prevent people from falling off the cliff. Essentially, health promotion is a close cousin of public health because it is concerned with keeping people healthy and keeping them from requiring services offered by healthcare. Our healthcare workers are frequently referred to as our first line of defense against COVID-19, and I disagree with this. In the fight against this disease, our healthcare workers, in fact, are the very last line of defense. They play backup to strong, evidence-based public health policy. Public policy is the offensive line, and you as elected leadership have become frontline workers. The offensive line in the Atlantic region has done tremendous work. We've had great success with the Atlantic bubble. What has characterized the success of the Atlantic bubble has been strong public health leadership, strong policy directives, and a well-organized and collaborative approach by provincial, Indigenous, and municipal leadership. However, we're well aware that we are not immune to this disease, and we are quickly seeing an exponential rise in COVID-19 cases in both New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And here is where the concern lies. Because once the virus begins to spread in this region, we know all too well that Indigenous communities face particular vulnerabilities, and those vulnerabilities are now magnified by COVID-19. These are ongoing structural inequalities that disproportionately affect First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. This region has some of the highest levels of both food and heat insecurity in the country. There are multiple ongoing drinking water issues, wherein some Inuit communities in southern Labrador, for instance, are faced with not just an issue related to clean water, but in fact lack any form of running water at all. Issues with overcrowded housing and homelessness that are compounded during the pandemic because there are fewer alternative public spaces for homeless people to occupy through the day, like libraries, a lack of services and supports for Indigenous women and girls who are fleeing violence, as well as inequitable access to timely and culturally safe healthcare, to name just a few. Each of these things make it that much more difficult to abide by public health protocols that are required to ward off the virus. In other words, should the virus enter our communities, we are not equally well positioned to fight it. I've heard three major concerns raised about the funding formula that is being used to calculate COVID-19 for Indigenous communities. The first one is that per capita calculations include data from the 2016 census, which does not paint an accurate portrait of the number of people per community. The Indian registry, for example, would be a much more accurate representation for on-reserve populations. The second thing is that definitions for remote does not currently account for the poverty experienced by many who live on reserve, whereby even a 10-kilometer distance between reserve communities and large population centers can make services completely inaccessible. And thirdly, not all communities have even been eligible to apply for Indigenous Services COVID-19 supports. Nunatuavut communities, for instance, are scrambling to write funding proposals where funds are not assured, serving to deepen the inequities experienced even among Indigenous communities within this region. Looking ahead to the hopefully not so distant future, our communities are already expressing concern about whether there will be access to any form of transition assistance once people are no longer able to read COVID supports. Many of these federal funding dollars have provided a desperately needed infusion of funds, but it isn't clear what happens once that funding runs out, when the need is still very high. This issue is especially important for those in lowest income brackets who have begun to rely on the extra support for heating their homes, addressing food security, and so forth. Earlier this week, Indigenous Affairs Minister Mark Miller noted that we in fact do not have solid epidemiological data for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities, and thus we may be vastly underestimating the scope of the problem. Combined with the fact that many Indigenous communities also have limited access to testing, not only might we not have a good understanding of the numbers of people who are reporting infections, but we are unable to accurately identify who is infected and then to undertake appropriate contact tracing. Without access to data, Indigenous communities are unable to project what their needs will be in order to effectively respond to the crisis. So to conclude, Mr. Chair, my recommendation to the Standing Committee is this. Think of yourselves at the top of the cliff as the frontline workers. What good public policy decisions can you work towards to ensure that community spread is minimized? PPE and hand sanitizer is important, but let's think instead about what helps keep people healthy and keeps them away from the cliff in the first place. Food security, affordable, safe housing, access to safe, clean sources of drinking water, access to timely and culturally safe health services for communities, and improving access to much needed epidemiological data that is specific to Indigenous communities. Nakamik and Willalan for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin, right on 6 minutes. Chief Mark, welcome, and please go ahead for 6 minutes.
First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to address you today on behalf of the chiefs of 9 communities of the Innu Nation of Quebec, which represent a population of roughly 20,000 members. On May 26, 6 months ago to the day, we had the opportunity to present ourselves before your committee. I thank my colleague, Chief Mackenzie, for speaking and listing the needs of the Innu Nation, as well as Dr. Stanley Volant, who is also an Innu doctor and member of our Innu Nation. As you know, high-level specialists are accompanying us on the medically with our cell for the Innu Nation in response to the pandemic. We also have been able to protect our communities for both waves. The North Shore is one of the only regions in Quebec that is not in the red zone, which means the zone with higher risk of transmission, and Innu represent 12% of the population of that region. We are convinced that the strategic cell has allowed us to better align our local actions. We were ahead of the curve like our ancestors, and we anticipated and showed proof of innovation by mobilizing ourselves to protect ourselves. Our collective leadership reflects our pride as an Innu people. The health of our people is a priority, and we need to continue the efforts undertaken. Now is the time to continue to prevent any outbreaks, to not be in reactive mode. Our members have made incredible sacrifices. We have realities that reflect geographical isolation, which, to the contrary of what you might believe, put us at risk with a transit of workers from sites, health workers, education, transport workers, and other fields who circulate on our territories. Our reality is such that we have to understand this. We welcome essential workers, but we have the additional challenge of protecting the health of our people and seniors, and we've been able to save them so far. As elected officials in the administrative regions of North Shore and Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, the vulnerability of our populations to the pandemic remains a major concern, because of high risk factors that could prove very serious if we don't have the means of maintaining the staff that we have in place to protect our communities. Since the arrival of the second wave of the pandemic, we have successfully, with our partners, implemented collaborative measures to protect us. But now the question, as it was in the first wave, is what are the provisions taken by the federal government to ensure the continuity of health and safety operations within our communities? Some funding measures are in place, but restrictions apply to what we can explain to our populations. Concerning the vaccination strategy that we have heard about recently through the little blurbs of information that we obtain, we are insisting that there needs to be a clear plan from federal authorities for the future. and we need to involve the governments of First Nations. We are asking the federal government to support measures with short, medium, and long-term measures at all levels, whether it's in health, social services, education, public safety, management, and protection of the Nitassinan and economic opportunities. As my colleague Mike McKenzie said last May, we need to count on the support of the federal government for our businesses to protect our gains. Our economic levers must be maintained and supported to contribute to addressing gaps and help keep the search for financial autonomy afloat. And the economic recovery concerns all of us. And I would go even farther. It's not a recovery, but rather the progress that needs to be made in the first place. On the psychosocial side of things, our troops need motivation. You know that winter is long, but it is even longer in our lands. We are isolated for the most part, and we must encourage our people to continue this battle against an invisible enemy that may arrive on our shores. We are in solution mode and we have a plan. However, we need help to implement it. Concerning food security, it is the concern for winter. Our elders need to feel reassured that they will be able to eat caribou, that the essential cultural link between Atik and the Innu is maintained, that our families can be comforted during the holidays and be able to, under the rules, to celebrate at least by eating what has fed us since time immemorial to date. We are asking for significant support for our traditional food security. Our hunters are ready to respect the resources and the rules by departing an expedition like our ancestors have done to feed their families. It's essential. We need to keep in mind that our realities are particular and that we must always fight before evidence. The specter of federal and provincial jurisdiction sometimes slows down evidence, and the good political will is the ingredient that allows us to align actions to make a real difference. As a nation, we have taken things in hand. We will continue to do so, but we need support to keep the situation under control. Human lives depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. And we're going to have time for one round of questioning from each of the party members of our committee, Mr. Melillo, Mrs. Zan, Ms. Gill, and Ms. Blaney. And our first questioner for 6 minutes, Eric Melillo. Please go ahead.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Chief Mark. Now, does your community have adequate access to PPE? Yes. For PPE, if I speak for my specific community, I can't speak for all communities, but ours, we had difficulty getting PPE for COVID, and we had to turn to the allocated COVID budgets.
I hope I'm coming through clearly. I think I have a bit of a delay.
Coming through fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions for Dr. Martin as well. Doctor, I see that one of your research subjects is food justice, and I believe you also mentioned food security in your remarks. I'm wondering if you can provide some insight for committee members onto how the current pandemic has really impacted food security and for Indigenous peoples, for Indigenous communities, and of course, across the North.
Thank you. Yes, so food security, for those of you that are unfamiliar with it, I guess is the idea that people have the ability to access safe, culturally appropriate, and the right amounts of food that provide for their nutritional needs. And in many cases, also food justice also involves the idea that Indigenous people specifically are able to access lands and their territories in ways that allow them to enact culturally appropriate activities. And so what we've seen during the pandemic is that many Indigenous communities, in some cases, are in fact getting out on the land even more frequently as a result of having more time to be able to do that. But with respect to that, there's also more safety concerns. So when we have more people going out on the land and enacting, their cultural activities, there's also a lot of risk that's involved with that. So when we have things like climate change in the north, for example, and late freeze-ups of and early breaks-ups of ice, it presents a lot of danger for people to be able to access the land in the ways that they've always done so. It's sort of an interesting, interpretation of what food security looks like. But I think that we need to think about safety. But in terms of also ensuring that people have access to enough food, that is also a concern. We know that many communities, in fact, have had difficulties accessing food because of transportation issues. So some of the logistics around that have been troublesome. I also spoke to a colleague of mine who works with the Nunatsiavut government in Labrador, who indicated that they don't have lights on the runways in many of their smaller communities, which means that when the weather is good, flights need to get in and out. So that's for emergencies, but also for supplies, for food, for health supplies, and so on. If those runways don't have adequate lighting, then if the weather is good in the evening, they simply can't get in or out of those communities, which poses a threat for not just safety, but also for accessing supplies as needed. So I think there's multiple layers and multiple ways in which food security is affected.
Absolutely. I think that might answer part of my next question I wanted to ask, but I'll put it out anyways. And it's a little more specific to some of the government programming that has been in place to help address food security. And particularly, I'm interested in your thoughts on Nutrition North. I'm sure it's something you're fairly familiar with through your work. And I think when I talk to people, whether it's in my riding in Kenora or across the north, it seems that this program, frankly, hasn't done enough. We've seen increases in food insecurity, and we've seen a lot of these challenges persist. So I'm curious if you have any specific thoughts to that program, how it might be able to be improved going forward.
I spent a little bit of time looking at the issue of the Nutrition North program, and indeed, I think you're bang on. What you've heard is sort of consistent with what I've heard in terms of the research that we've done in that looking at that program, whereby a lot of the subsidies that are provided to the program aren't necessarily reaching the pockets of the consumers as they purchase foods from stores in northern communities. And so I'm not sure that I have the right or the single only solution to solving that problem, but I think that when you talk to a lot of the Indigenous communities in those regions that are relying on the Nutrition North program, I think they often have, a lot of their own ideas about how to do that. So I'm not sure that I have anything specific to add to that right now, but I think that they would. We also know that a lot of the grocers aren't necessarily able to offer the subsidy directly to their own customers. So whether there's a way to ensure that or mandate that the subsidies that are directed to the grocers, the owners of the grocery stores, can be ensured to be passed on to the customer. I think that's the biggest gap that I've noticed.
Thanks very much, and we'll move on now for the next 6-minute round of questioning with Lenore Zan. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and Wilaliok for all of the Nova Scotian witnesses to be here tonight. You know, we've chatted a little bit before this meeting as well about some of the issues that have been facing Millbrook First Nation and other Mi'kmaq communities during the COVID pandemic. And one of the things that I remember we talked about is the fact that it all happened so quickly and with such emergency that it was very difficult to have enough staff to actually fill out the applications in order to get the financial supports from government. So could Ms. Gillis, would you mind filling us in a little bit more on that and give us some suggestions of what needs to be done to address that this time around?
Absolutely, and Jana did touch on it a little bit in her opening statement. What we saw was many of the communities already, when we talk about their own source revenue here in Nova Scotia, a lot of that own source revenue is generated via gaming or fishing. At the time of the pandemic, one of the first decisions made by the provincial government without any prior consultation with the communities was the shutdown of their gaming facilities. Due to that, we also did not at that time have the programming in place. So the communities turned to their own source revenue and had to make decisions to cut many positions in their community. A lot of the non-essential services were cut. Many that stayed on were leadership, health, and what little EMO support they did have. Because these are individuals that are used to support communities to access funds, when all of that information overload and programming came down, the ability to access that funding became impaired. So as Jana McKay mentioned, they turned to tribal organizations like ourselves who did not have funding per se in place to deal with COVID as nobody did, but they turned to us and we were able to kind of turn into an EMO office where we used existing staff that are hired through other programs to help support communities write proposals. But that was on individuals who were already doing other jobs. So that when you have to cut positions in already reduced capacity positions, the ability to access that funding becomes more difficult. And as a result, missed opportunities happened and there was more dependence on OSR, which in turn created more debt. So that's what we saw.
And so do you have any suggestions of what we can do, what the government, the federal government, what I can do to try and help avoid that this time around? What do you need?
I think it's that funding to support EMO coordinator positions to actually write proposals and access funding for communities, which didn't exist the first time around. There was no HR support for communities or for organizations like ours to access that funding. And much of the funding we saw was undersubscribed versus, as you know, oversubscribed. So
right,
they went without instead.
That's a shame. I'm so sorry to hear that. Thank you very much for that. The other issue I want to ask you about is mental health. We had heard in the spring that the pandemic is having impacts on mental health across the country for Indigenous communities who are already vulnerable before this crisis and are even more so now, and will probably be more so afterwards. The Minister of Indigenous Services has said that the government has invested $82.5 million to address the impacts of the pandemic on mental health in Indigenous communities, in addition to $425 million in existing annual funding for community-based mental health services. So can you please describe the impacts of the pandemic on the mental health of Mi'kmaq communities in our area? And what can we do to improve it as we go forward?
1 minute, go ahead.
Okay, 1 minute for mental health. That's a big one.
I know, sorry.
That's okay. We did take some of the funds that were allocated for that region, and of course, you say some big numbers across the country. That of course gets pared down to, not quite as much for a particular region. In our region, in our Atlantic region, those funds with CMM are going towards access to more mental health clinicians, because as I said in my opening, access to treatment during this time is incredibly impaired right now. And we're seeing, increased drug use and relapse here, and with no place to go, and those positions being cut in community, or, their time being used elsewhere. Some of those are mental health workers and not being able to service the community adequately. What's the impact? The impact is that communities are struggling, and it's really hard to see an end in sight when treatment isn't available.
Thanks very much. And now, Madame Gill, bienvenue, vous avez la parole.
Welcome. You have the floor. 6 minutes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to thank all of the witnesses, and particularly greet Mark and also Mr. Terrien Pinet. You spoke, Mr. Mark, about the needs of the health needs, the health of businesses. What are the differences, if there are any, between the needs for the first wave and the needs for the second wave for Innu nations and also the Savary territory? And please go ahead. Hello, Madame Gill? I can't answer for the entire Innu nation, but our communities have a lot of different realities that are specific to each community. And that's why I would have liked Jean-Claude Pinet to help me, but concerning at the economic level, the entire Innu nation is affected by the pandemic. It already wasn't easy because we are in a remote region, and we are isolated because we don't have any road link. And there are some small businesses, but they have been hit very hard by the pandemic, by both the first wave, and I think it's a cumulative effect that's being felt across the territory. So if I've understood correctly, the needs are increasing, and you haven't been able to meet them adequately. If you would like, you can send the committee a complimentary response for the 9 communities if you wish. Please don't hesitate, and the committee can read up on them. I also have questions. You spoke about food security and tick, which I see behind you on the wall. How can the government help communities? Because I recall that it's the time hunting season, and these are traditional importance, and some communities are saying, no, we're not going to do it this year because they're afraid of the pandemic. But I'm sure that has an impact on food security, which is already fragile in some places. So how can the federal government help support you? Well, I think that there needs to be support in the measures undertaken with the province to have access to the resources in a controlled way to protect the resource, nevertheless, but we would try to have measures that could allow us to feed our elders in a community way, if we're not talking about individual hunts, but community-controlled hunts, and perhaps in that light, the federal government perhaps give us a hand, because I think that it must be 5 or 6 years now that we've been talking about negotiating something that could allow us to access the resource, but the file has been dragging on for years, and during that time there are elders who haven't had the chance to taste their traditional dishes, and many have left us since then. And that's why I don't know if that answers the question, but yes, of course. I don't know whether the federal government could intervene with the province to allow us to access this. I certainly don't doubt it. I have another question about isolation and the Lower North Shore or Pakweshipu. You spoke about risk. How is it increasing? What are the needs that you have, the additional needs that you have, that where the federal government could help you? On the food security side of things, how should I say it? There are buffer zones where there's a transition, and with the changing of the seasons, it's very difficult to have access to food that is appropriate when we're talking about food spoiling. And it echoes the words of the other witness who was saying that despite the Northern Nutrition Program, it's very expensive to purchase basic goods for these communities. We see in social media, we are living a similar situation. A pint of milk costs nearly $10, even if there are subsidies from Nutrition North.
Blaney, you have 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank all of the witnesses here today for the important testimony that you've added to the study. If I could start with you first, Ms. McKay, you talked about something that we've heard before, which is around the issue of bylaws and the ability for the bylaws to be enforced and the challenges that you're seeing. I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that and let us know if COVID has actually had a detrimental impact, or if this has been a long-standing one that COVID just exaggerated. I'm not sure that's the right word, but I hope you understand what I mean.
I'll defer this to Angie.
Hi, yes, and that's a great question. And it is one. In Nova Scotia, we have what is known as the tripartite process. One of the working groups that was implemented as a result of the Truth and Reconciliation process was the need to look at the way our justice system is set up. In that, we started to conduct studies on the gaps with bylaw enforcement. And it isn't necessarily that we do not have capacity to develop bylaws. Our communities have done that. The gap we are seeing is the issue with enforcement, getting enforcement to act. And that was in fact exacerbated through COVID when our communities tried to protect the communities by implementing the lockdowns, implementing curfews and such. We could not get any of our law enforcement officers to support us in ensuring that they were followed adequately to protect the communities. So it was something that was brought more to light, that gap when COVID struck.
Thank you. That's very helpful. If I could come to you, Professor Martin, you said a couple of things. The first thing is you talked about timely and culturally safe healthcare. And I just want to make sure on the record that we clarify what that looks like. And the other thing that you talked about, and I've heard in numerous studies, is the barrier to a lack of data, and that it's hard to measure what's working, what's not working, and long-term impacts simply because we don't have substantive data, and I hear that across Canada. So if you could just answer those two things, what direction do we need to take in terms of getting more clear data? And the other part is what is timely and culturally safe healthcare?
Two really good questions. So I think there's two different things in terms of the timeliness of access to care. So for remote, rural, and isolated communities, access to timely care is becomes urgent in the case of COVID-19 if emergency services are needed. Again, with issues related to weather, geographic isolation, timeliness is sometimes difficult to enact, and the ability to have supports in that way becomes impeded. So I think one way to address that would be through improved access to telehealth opportunities and better connectivity in rural and remote and isolated areas. In terms of culturally safe care, I think we've seen in the media and know very well the impact of racism and systemic racism in our healthcare system. And it's one thing to require services, but it's certainly another thing to choose not to have those services because you know that the way that you're going to be treated once you enter into the healthcare system is not culturally appropriate or in fact racist. So I think that's sort of what I wanted to bring out in that. So I'm glad you asked me about that because it was a very condensed sentence that I put in there. And then again, the lack of access to data is a massive one as well. What I would suggest here is turning to some of the amazing work that's being done already by Indigenous communities in terms of improving their own access to data. You look at, nationally, we have the First Nations Information Governance Center that has done some amazing work in collecting data from very diverse First Nations communities across the country to address that. But that doesn't mean that the capacity is there to now pivot to understand how to collect this epidemiological data that's needed to understand and do contact tracing and all of that other stuff for COVID-19. And so what we're left with is a huge gap in our knowledge about the epidemiology of COVID-19 in Indigenous communities. And without that information, we can't act accordingly. I think what needs to happen, first step is a full and complete engagement with the appropriate Indigenous leadership that can advise on how to engage with that type of data collection. That has to happen. Without that, I don't think any amount of government funding would improve access because we are already facing a lot of skepticism, reluctance with Indigenous communities wanting to participate in research because of a massive history of colonialism that has really created a negative taste in the mouths of many people that have taken part in research in the past. So there really needs to be a lot of capacity built in communities to be able to do that work themselves.
Thank
That's
you.
about it, Ms. Blaney. We're right at time.
Yep.
Thanks very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about the technical issues which caused us delays. I want to thank our panelists. These are remarkable contributions to our report. If there's anything that you feel has not been discussed that should be, please submit written testimony and it will be incorporated into our report. We're going to suspend for just a few moments, set up our next panel, and resume momentarily. Once again, thanks to our witnesses.
Thank you, and Walaliok.
Again and resume our study of support for Indigenous communities through a second wave of COVID-19. Joining us by video conference, National Chief Norman Yakalea of the Dene Nation, Minister William Gooden of the Manitoba Métis Federation, and Herb Lair of the Métis Settlements General Council. And Chief Yakalea, would you please go ahead for 6 minutes? Chief, you're on mute. Could you take your mute off? Your mic is showing mute. If you have a laptop in front of you, push the space bar and keep pushing on it, and it will unmute it. I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk, could we have a technician call Mr. Yakalea, and we'll move on and have Minister Gooden of the Manitoba Métis Federation. Would you please go ahead for 6 minutes, and we'll come back to the chief in a moment. Go ahead, please, for 6 minutes, Mr. Gooden, Minister Gooden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to all the committee members. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today, and I'm very pleased to speak to you about the support for Indigenous communities, businesses, and individuals through the second wave of COVID. I want to say thank you again for inviting the MMF to speak to the committee on the COVID crisis gripping the world, our country, and in particular its impact on the Manitoba Métis. I am here on behalf of our president, David Chartrand. The Manitoba Métis government has been dedicated to providing supports to our citizens, families, workers, and businesses as they try to cope with the hard impacts of COVID. The Government of Canada has heard our concerns, in which President Chartrand expressed to you in his other appearances. We need to continue to work together to address the continued standing challenges. We acknowledge Canada has responded quickly and meaningfully and in partnership with us to adjust the programs to allow our Métis government to deliver a flexible financial lifeline to our Indigenous communities, businesses, and individuals. This is especially important to recognize as we have had no support from the Manitoba provincial government. We have been delivering food security, income, and other supports for many of our more vulnerable citizens, including our seniors, students, early learners, and homeless. These are difficult times we are facing here in Manitoba. We are deep into code red with job losses, closures, and significant COVID cases. We have lost loved ones here in the Métis community due to this pandemic. There is no doubt that Canada's Indigenous support programs, in addition to its broader COVID-19 economic response plan, have helped in preventative measures to slow down the devastating impact on our communities. We are working to do all we can with these preventative measures to minimize the impacts. At the same time, COVID has had a significant influence on our people even before the onset of its second wave. Historically, and in modern day, the Métis are well known as entrepreneurs and business-minded people. The concern for the future of this sector is significant. Many of our citizens are employed in the services and construction sectors. Their type of employment does not enable them to work from home. The lack of reliable and sufficient internet bandwidth for both our rural and urban citizens, and in particular our entrepreneurs, creates further challenges during these unprecedented times. Ensuring all criteria is met, we are dedicated to release the federal supports intended to provide flexible, immediate support. In Manitoba, we are in the depth of full non-essential closures across the province. The funds being released through the Louis Riel Capital Corporation and our Métis Economic Development Fund are there to help those in the crisis we face now and to assist in the reopening in a safe and responsible manner. We currently have 3 COVID-19 Métis business support programs. Our MMF COVID-19 economic response for entrepreneurs was an early and urgent response that was launched on March 23rd, and at that time dispersed over $650,000. Our MMF COVID Business Support Program was launched November 3rd and has provided $1.173 million approved to date, with applications approved in 72 hours and funds distributed within the week. The Métis Emergency Business Loan Program has approved and dispersed over $4.3 million in financial supports to our businesses and entrepreneurs. The COVID crisis has also exposed the particular vulnerability of our citizens and communities owing to our long-standing exclusion from federal health supports available to other Indigenous peoples. While the First Nations and Inuit Health Branch of Indigenous Services Canada worked with First Nations and Inuit to provide PPE and other forms of medical assistance, the Métis were left to fend for ourselves. While we are all now focused on the need to contain the second wave, we hope that as Canada tries to build resiliency with an equitable and sustainable economic recovery plan, the impact that COVID is having on our people will figure in this plan. We believe an equitable and sustainable economic recovery plan should incorporate the commitments made to us during the 2019 election campaign. Acting on these commitments will serve to stimulate economic activity and resolve long-standing inequities. These include commitments by Canada to 1, close the infrastructure gap in Métis communities by 2030 through investments in critical health infrastructure such as Métis Nation health hubs. 2, co-develop distinctions-based Indigenous health legislation to ensure Indigenous control over the development and delivery of services. 3, attain a 5% Indigenous procurement target in federal spending. And 4, establish a major projects benefits framework that will ensure Métis communities benefit from major projects. The federal government's budgets in 2018 and 2019 contain significant allocations for Métis-specific programs and services such as housing, early learning and childcare, and post-secondary education over a 10-year period. The MMF applauds this dedication to a government-to-government and nation-to-nation approach. Accelerating the release of the balance of this funding in a shorter time frame may also help in addressing long-standing needs and provide economic stimulus in our communities. Again,
Chief, we're beyond time. We're beyond time.
Yes, I just was going to say thank you. That was my last sentence. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your time and allowing me to speak here today. Much appreciated.
I'm glad we didn't miss that. Thank you very much. Okay, Chief Yakalea, I see that you're not muted now, so can you hear me? And if so, please go ahead for 6 minutes.
Yeah, thanks to my 18-year-old son is technology savvy that made it happen.
Great.
Okay, so must see, I'm the National Chief Norman Yakalaya of the Dene Nation of the Northwest Territories. As our elders have always said, we ask all of Canada to continue to pray for all of us as we go through the COVID-19 pandemic. I was elected in August 2018 on a platform of unifying the Dene, rebuilding the Dene Nation through our existing treaties and modern treaties, and with Canada and the Northwest Territories government and other Indigenous governments. Time is of the essence for us as elected leaders. My 3-year term, 1,095 days, is down to 268 days as we continue to lead and manage our way through this pandemic as Dene. What you will hear from me will be consistent with the points we have talked about as Dene. What we have talked about with the other Indigenous governments, the government of the Northwest Territories, as well as the Prime Minister and the ministers. The pandemic really is about the health and the health of our Dene, the health of our economy, either trapping or in wages that sustains us. The Dene medicine wellness model is something that we want to encourage. And we ask Canada, through the economic issues, is that they consider the procurement policies that affect the Dene people. As we collectively protect our way through the second wave and anticipated possible third wave, a number of things are very clear. Number one, the status quo is not enough. We would not want to go back to the normal way because If we go back to the normal way of doing business, we would still be in a situation where we will be begging Canada to help the Indigenous people. We understand also that no one government can go it alone. Unilateral decision making is counterproductive. However, the current system, the GNWT and Canada's fiscal arrangement, supports this unilateral decision. This is a time that demands collaboration and co-governance. The pandemic has really brought to light the shortcomings in our existing systems. It has shed light onto the fact that change has to happen. We are managing, but barely. Systems are stretched to the breaking point. People, especially our caregivers, known as elders, mothers, and fathers, and special people in our communities, are exhausted. The economy is in recession, and the climate change are extremely important, along with what's happening with our weather. So we look at the pandemic as opportunities. The pandemic has helped create the condition where it is clear that the only way ahead is through collaborative, co-governance approach amongst the Indigenous governments, Canada, and the GNWT, where issues of common concern can be discussed and next steps agreed upon. For example, arranging for new fiscal arrangements must be a priority with this government, with Indigenous governments. For example, the chiefs are very concerned about the greatly increase of alcohol and drug abuse in our small communities and the fatalities that we have suffered resulting from the pandemic-related public health restrictions. Much of the program funding designed and programmed for Indigenous people resides within the government of the Northwest Territories, with Indigenous governments often being reduced to recipients of the funding that may or may not meet their needs due to not having any input into program designs and implementation. We encourage direct funding to the Aboriginal governments. Let us do our own wellness program rather than having someone do it for us. The opportunity is now there to revisit these arrangements on a trilateral basis to make it acceptable to the three governments, plus promote efficiency, effectiveness, and creativity in dealing with what are now almost intractable problems like housing, health, energy, and economy. At the start of the pandemic, the Dene Nation made a case to Canada that the safest place for people in our communities was on the land, rather than in the community. Canada had agreed and funding was provided to assist families to go on the land in a common sense, innovative approach. The Dene Nation recognizes the need to rebuild the NWT economy post-pandemic and put out a roadmap in a document called Resetting the Sail, Dene Nation Post-Pandemic Economic Reset Plan, April 2020. The Dene Nation and the Center for Indigenous Environmental Resources put a paper called Resetting the National Sail, a consideration paper on Indigenous governments and the Canada Water Agency. The Dene Nation is primarily advocating for the creation of a territorial government where Indigenous elected leaders and those of the government of the Northwest Territories can gather and hopefully reach consensus on how to deal with issues of common interest. The Dene Nation is also advocating for the coordinated approach to the Arctic and Northern Policy Framework, which to be structured in the same way. We are advocating for a Dene chapter.
Chief, we're right at time. Go ahead.
The four recommendations, and thank you very much, that the Dene Nation needs a trilateral table to work with all three governments. The Dene Nation supports whatever initiatives that we can work together with this committee and the government of Canada. Masicho.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Chief. And have the teenager invoice the government of Canada for the technical work.
You're so kind, gentle.
Okay. So that brings us to an old acquaintance from the Métis Settlements General Council, Herb Lair. Welcome, Herb, and please go ahead for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Standing Committee for the invitation to speak today on behalf of the Métis Settlements as part of your study on COVID-19 and its Indigenous communities. I am pleased to provide the committee with an update on the situation across our 8 communities and how we wish to work collaboratively with the Government of Canada in the weeks and months ahead. For members who may be new to this committee, the MSGC is not part of the Métis National Council or a member of the Métis Nation of Alberta. As such, we do not have access to Métis distinction-based funding. Our settlements are spread throughout northern Alberta, and we are unique in that we are the only Métis in Canada with a land base. Through the MSGC, our people hold fee simple title to 1.25 million acres of land, equal to the size of Prince Edward Island. Our self-governing powers are currently enabled by Alberta law and make MSGC responsible for many functions akin to a municipal government, including citizen wellness, clean water, housing, roads, and capital infrastructure, as well as other essential services. The settlements are in the second wave of COVID and are not immune to its impacts. Our Central Board of Health has been active in coordinating our response and in liaising with government authorities to request and distribute PPE. However, due to the current second wave, the need for PPE and isolation units remain. Since my appearance here in June, we have had approximately 13 cases across the settlements, including 6 cases deemed recovered and 1 death of an elder. These numbers may be higher, but we have a data gap due to our limited ability to offer testing and monitoring. I want to thank the Government of Canada and Ministers Bennett and Miller for their support in our battle against COVID-19. To date, MSGC has been able to receive over $1.8 million through the Indigenous Community Support Fund, which has allowed us to fight, contain, and to somewhat manage the virus. We have applied for additional COVID-19 support available through the same program and are hopeful for positive outcome shortly. As we enter the second wave, continued federal government support for the settlements remain key as our financial situation continues to deteriorate. Many of the difficulties I raised back in June remain, including skyrocketing mill rates, financial insolvency within the resource development industry across the settlements, and an acquisition moratorium on oil and gas in Alberta. Simply put, our own source revenues have been significantly hit. The current situation has only accelerated the more fundamental challenge for MSGC, our long-term viability. We are in an emergency and need federal action now if we are to continue our way of life. Our settlements have often relied on ourselves, but some provincial partnerships have existed, most recently the MSGC Alberta long-term arrangements. This, with our own limited savings, have been our primary funding source. But the LTA will sunset in 2023, and provincial funding has already been reduced by half beginning this fiscal year to the end of the agreement. Alberta has made it clear that it will no longer continue funding the settlements beyond 2023. In addition, the 2016 landmark Supreme Court Daniels versus Canada ruling has fundamentally reframed the Canada-Métis fiduciary relationship. Given these facts, it is time for the Government of Canada to ensure a proper relationship with the Métis settlements, including long-term financial sustainability. While MSGC, Alberta, and Canada are in tripartite negotiations for a long-term sustainability agreement, immediate funding is needed if we are to remain operational. MSGC is seeking federal funding of $50 million per year for 3 years as a stopgap measure until the tripartite negotiations are complete, a process which could take years to conclude. As we continue to address the COVID situation, we know that these costs, as well as the major infrastructure deficit we face, is unsustainable over the next few years. The Métis settlements and MSGC face the prospect of insolvency in under 12 months. if we do not receive immediate stopgap funding from the Government of Canada. To support our financial ask, we have provided a full business case with third-party experts and have briefed Ministers Bennett and Ministers Miller's advisors on its details. We recently briefed both Deputy Ministers at Crown Indigenous Relations and Indigenous Services Canada about our current situation and our request for inclusion in Budget 2021. We would ask that ministers and officials, as well as this committee, for their support for our request. In closing, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, for the invitation here today. I would be pleased to answer any questions you may have. I yield any remaining time to Chair Bertina.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lair. And we have time for one round of questioning with Mr. Viersen, Ms. Demoff, Madame Berube, and Ms. Blaney. Mr. Viersen, 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. I want to welcome Herb to the committee. Gotten to know him fairly well over the last few years, and he does great work. He talked about the $50 million that they're looking for in bridge funding. I was just wondering if he could outline a little bit around what has happened to the Métis settlements over the last 5 years, essentially, so that and where the revenues have dried up that they normally had been funded with. Just wondering if he can outline a little bit around that.
Sure, I can. We had entered into a long-term agreement with the province to create some of the sustainability, but the real agreement with the province had to go around creating some businesses and trying to ensure that we are more economically viable and making the money ourselves versus going to the province. And a lot of our settlements got into oil and gas ventures, and of course, as you all know, the oil industry dried up in Alberta, and the majority of these companies have now gone bankrupt. And with the province, there was an agreement that we had that we were supposed to talk about, the co-management agreement, and that we were supposed to look at increasing revenues from that component. While that we never got to that part of the agreement with the province yet, we've asked for them to put it back on the table, but with a moratorium on oil and gas right now, again, it doesn't help us. So they were concerned about other countries coming in and buying up all the reserves, and so they put a moratorium on it. And when we look at the other businesses, again, we had logging in some of our communities. All of these types of ventures have dried up, and we're in a real pickle. And of course, with Alberta leading the way with the amount of COVID people, it's a very scary situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's COVID on top of an economic meltdown that we've been facing in Alberta long before COVID showed up. Just wondering if you could, for some of the new committee members, if you could explain what's unique about Métis settlements and how many are there and where are you all located?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, 3 of those settlements happen to be in your riding, so you're quite familiar with them. But we're spread across Alberta, mostly in northern Alberta, 4 in the western part of it, 4 more in the eastern component of it. And there was 12 Métis settlements, and they took back 4 of them, and we ended up with 8 of these 8 communities. And these communities are similar to reserves. The vast difference between us is that we're taxpayers, that we've always been taxpayers, but the land is held under a fee simple title the same way that the First Nations land is held a fee simple title. So your net worth doesn't go up on any improvements that you make to the land. The members are way more culturally attuned than I would suggest a lot of other Métis, because we have to live that way of life. We choose to live that way of life. And our people speak quite fluent Cree, different dialects depending on where you're from. And there's been more of a retention of the language in our communities historically. Lately, the latest move though is that we're showing more of a loss of it. These communities, for the most part, the majority of them have very poor cell reception and internet reception, just similar to our other remote places. The community I'm from, Fishing Lake Métis Settlement, that we're about 45 minutes from any town. And it doesn't matter which way we go in 3 different ways. It's about 45 minutes to an hour to go to that town. And for the most part, we've kind of been labeled that we're the same as the reserve, that they thought that the settlement girls were all First Nations, to be honest.
Very good. Yeah, thank you for that description. I've been able to tour a number of them. One of the Métis settlements suffered a pretty damaging fire over the last couple of years. Could you give us a bit of an update on that?
I sure can. Thank you very much. The community that he's referring to is called Paddle Prairie Métis Settlement. It's the largest settlement that we have, and it's 16 townships of land, so around 600 square miles. It had a fire that came onto it from what was called the Chuckegg Creek fire, and it burned about 3/4, and I may not be correct on my amount of numbers, but around 3/4 of the trees on that land, those trees were worth over $2 billion. And a lot of these trees were trees that we had done reforestation projects with, that the community had expended a large amount of money to ensure that they were looking out for their future by planting trees that they could log later on. And they lost 15 houses in that community. All of our communities are the same. There's very few homes that are insured because the cost of insuring the homes are atrocious. And this community is approximately 12 hours from Edmonton one way. And these people generally, like we have our meetings in Edmonton, they have to come all the way to Edmonton to meet with us when we meet as a collectivity. The people have been put in new homes. The Métis Settlements General Council took its own money and passed on $3 million to rebuild those homes. And we had hoped to recoup that money from either the provincial or federal government. Disaster plans to date, we've not recouped anything.
Sorry to interrupt on that. Thanks very much, Mr. Viersen and Mr. Lair. And we go now for 6 minutes to Ms. Delmoff. Pam, please go ahead for 6 minutes.
Thanks a lot, Chair. And thank you to all of our witnesses for your very helpful testimony tonight. Chief Yakalaya, I'm going to start with you. You published a book, Dene Medicine and On the Land Healing Resource for Dene Communities. And you also spoke earlier about getting funding for land-based education. I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit, perhaps, if one of the things is if your guide has encouraged and inspired more Dene to go back to the land, and also the importance of being on the land during the pandemic for both physical and mental health.
Hello?
Yep, you're there.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Chief.
thank you. Yeah, my son is not here, so he just gave me his instructions 1, 2, 3, Dad. So
Smart boy.
Yeah. Thank you very much for a very, very powerful question. And I want to thank the previous speaker speaking from Northern Alberta, and certainly we understand. We wanted to say very much that within the Dene culture, the Dene tradition, for guidance and for direction and support in our way of life, we knew the COVID was coming into Canada. We started to monitor it in March. So as the Dene National Chief, I went to my elders and I talked to the elder and I said, this sickness is coming upon us. And the elder said, Ka, we heard about it in the past and we know that's coming. So I said, what shall we do? He said, I'm glad that you come and talk to me. And so he said, I will tell you. He said, we heard this in the past from our elders, and we were told to go on the land. And that's the only place that we're going to be safe. When you go back to the land, you will learn your medicines, you'll learn your way of life, you'll learn to live in a healthy relationship with your families and your children, and you'll learn how to be a person again. And so it's not something that I wanted to happen because on our land is very tough. It's winter time. But after a week, I had to follow what the elders said, and we pushed a strong initiative to get our people on the land as much as possible. And we've been very successful. The federal government really supported this initiative with the ministers, and they put direct funding into our communities to get people on the land. And part of the whole thing about this is that our whole land holds all our medicines. We are mindful, respectful of the medicines through the Western society, through the hospitals. But our elders also told us there are medicines on our trees, in our animals, and we need to learn. So part of the initiative that we took was to have a project about compiling the medicines from all over the different regions in the Northwest Territories. And we put that together with the elders and the researchers and compiled a book about helping us use our own medicine through the COVID-19. The second phase we're in right now, which we received $40,000 from the federal government to do some more work. The real work will begin when we go into our regions and ask specifically the elders on our own medicine. And the elders are very sacred in regards to the teaching and keep it amongst us. So what we said, we want to share this with our Indigenous brothers in Canada. So that's a very powerful. The other one there we wanted to talk about was the education. We need to train our young people about educating to living on the land. And that is why we push strong to support the education initiative on the land. And also that we were working on, and we haven't received much support from the federal government on a wellness treatment model on the land, because we have issues with addictions, with alcohol and drugs, and that providing wellness for our communities and to keep them safe. So I guess in a nutshell, we're following the guidance of the elders, and we are encouraging as much as our community, as much support through Nutritious North Harvesting Program, the government's support for us to get our people on the land, at the same time maintaining some safety for some of the elders in our communities that aren't able to go on the land. So we want to use this opportunity to get fish from the fish lakes.
Could I interrupt you just for a second? Because I only have 30 seconds left. And is one of your recommendations that the federal government fund land-based addictions and wellness programs that you're not getting funding for?
That's music to my ears, and that's what we're pushing for, a core program. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Pam, thank you. I'll move the 10 seconds over to our next speaker. And that's Madame Bérubé. You have the floor, Madame Bérubé, for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank all of the witnesses who have joined us virtually this evening. My question is for the witnesses. Was your committee consulted about what was needed to prepare for the second wave?
Vous pouvez répondre.
If you could provide an answer, please.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, who was she asking?
Madame Bérubé.
Ça s'adresse à vous.
It's for all three witnesses.
What's the question?
Repeat the question, Madame Bérubé.
Oui.
Yes. Was your community consulted about what was needed to for the second wave of COVID-19?
Anyone?
Hello.
Go ahead. So is any of our witnesses ready to answer that question? Minister Gooden, please go ahead, Minister.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. And thank you so much for the question. At the Manitoba Métis Federation, our Métis government was very much involved in discussions. My presentation was mostly about economic responses and what we've had to do to protect our small businesses, our entrepreneurs, even going down to our musicians, fishermen, fishers, the folks who are harvesting on the land, those things that we talked about. But I would say that there's been no doubt that the current federal government speaks to us on a government-to-government, nation-to-nation basis, and we very much appreciate that. And I just wanted to add quickly as well that I spoke about the distinctions-based approach before, and I want to say a big thanks to my colleague from the Métis settlements. I got so much respect for what they do up there, and Herb is a friend. I've spoken to him a few times over the years. For me, the distinctions base isn't just for Métis National Council. It's for the Métis Nation, and that includes the Métis settlement. So I would, whatever Herb talks about when he's speaking of the needs of his community, that falls right into the distinction space. I know that's a little off track here, but yes, we were consulted.
Are we unmuted? Hey,
Herb, you're good.
Okay, great. So I'm very happy that the Métis Nation and MNC has been consulted on these issues. However, as non-affiliates, that there's been no discussion with us on this type of stuff. That we really and we've received zero funding ever from the Métis National Council or from the Métis Nation of Alberta. As Métis settlements, we're very much standalone. We kind of feel like the forgotten child, to be honest. That we're the one that's left out in the wayward here, and we're very happy that other Métis people get to move ahead, and that's why we're pushing so hard right now that we have a direct relationship with the federal government, and that we got brought into the fold and into the marriage, if that's what you want to call it.
Chief Yakalaya, have you got the question and answer now? Mute. You're still on mute.
Hello?
Go ahead.
You hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, boy, I'm having fun this afternoon. So I want to apologize. I didn't hear the question. It was on the other official language, the French, and I didn't hear the question, but I'm hearing the two other speakers, so I'm not too sure how do I respond to Mr. Chair.
I'll repeat the question. Were you consulted about the second wave of the pandemic by the federal government?
Federal government on the second wave. I'm not sure Mr. Chief Yakalaya has his translation on, but that was the question. Were you consulted? And you've got a half a minute to answer. Go ahead.
We had minimum consultation. As you know, the system right now is that it's with the territorial government and the federal government, and the Dene Nation is hasn't really played a major role unless we really use the other national Aboriginal organization to help us. So in regards to the funding, very minimum consultation, if not any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks, Madame Berube. We have 6 minutes now. Our final questioner is Rachel Blaney. Ms. Blaney, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank all the witnesses for being here. My first question will be to you, Minister Godon. If you could just answer two questions for me. You talked about data and some of the challenges, and we've heard about that from multiple witnesses, that there's not the ability to gather that information. And so I just want you to talk a little bit about that and where the gaps are. The other thing that you talked about, of course, was the 5% procurement. And we know that that is not even in the 1% realm yet. So I'm just wondering, you know, what we're hearing from government is that the process will happen. What are the gaps on your side?
Okay, so remind me again the first question, because I had some good answers, and then
data.
Data. Excellent. Yes. So President Lair talked briefly about the Daniels decision, where the Supreme Court said that the federal government has responsibility for all Aboriginal people as described in Section 35, including the Métis. And but somehow it's taking the Department of Health a little while to figure out that the First Nations and Inuit Health Branch only has 2 out of the 3 Aboriginal peoples as described in Section 35. And so the data that's collected on First Nation citizens, on Inuit, doesn't fall down to us here at the Métis level. So that's an issue that we need to move forward on that relationship and build that capacity that works for Métis governance structures, whether it's the Manitoba Métis Federation in Manitoba or the Métis settlements in their jurisdiction, the Métis Nation of Alberta and the rest of Alberta. Those kind of things, there needs to be that government to government relationship so that we build that capacity properly, so that we know who is sick. And I'll say that in Manitoba, we have a particular problem because our premier has decided to not work with the Métis people. So we're shut out on both sides here. So although we have an excellent relationship with the government of Canada, that, as I said, that it doesn't translate at some point all the way down. So that would be my first point. And remind me again of your second question, because it was an excellent one.
Well, you've got a very short amount, because I want to get down another, but just that 5% procurement.
5%, yes. So there's a whole lot of things that are going on here. Obviously, when it comes to things like the bandwidth, the internet connectivity that's happening across, we want to be involved in that because our communities, and I'm sure President Lair feels the same way, we need to be Canadian citizens fully participating, and that's one of the biggest examples I could use.
Thank you so much. President Lair, if I can come to you, I just would like you to talk a little bit, if you could, just around the jurisdiction challenges. And you're working with both, you know, the provincial and federal government. I'm just wondering, how is that going? Where are the things that are blocking you? And you know, are both governments taking their responsibility and their jurisdiction seriously and working with you in a meaningful way?
Thank you very much for that question. I'd like to answer by saying I feel like the proverbial football that's been talked about in the Daniels case, where we're still being tossed back and forth, and honor of the Crown it creates all these problems under Section 91 versus 92. And our problem is that as the government knows that this province is not supportive of UNDRIP, that they've come straight out and said they're going to oppose UNDRIP, whereas the federal government wants to move that way. This government that we're currently working with has decided that they no longer want to fund the Métis settlements. And the last little bit of money that we have is drying up, and we have community members that are thinking, well, do I have to move now because I won't have water or sewer or anything, you know, in this community anymore? So there's a huge problem with the relationship and with the length of time, and it's exasperated because of COVID. And that's why we had to come through this venue in order to try to move forward, because COVID is having an impact on what gets delivered to everybody.
And so with the provincial government making that decision, and you're dealing with COVID, but even without COVID, what will be the health impacts on those territories?
It's going to be devastating. We have censuses that we do, and similar to the Métis Nations across Canada, they don't get concise data because Stats Canada isn't set up properly to be able to do those proper queries. And in our cases, they use the postal codes, and our people get mail in the surrounding towns, and so the postal codes make it a skewed information system. And so we can't get the data that we need, nor do we have the relationship with Alberta Health Services in order to be able to get that type of information. And our people already have problems, and it's getting exasperated day by day because they not only have they got that past trauma from all of the other, from smallpox right down to the Spanish flu, and where they burnt the homes with the people in them already, where they now feel that they have no place to go. Nobody really wants them, and that there's changes getting made to the Métis Settlement Act that the minister's trying to push right now that make it a lot harder and more onerous to live in the community. And it's very trying times.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Thanks very much. Thanks, Ms. Blaney. And thank you to all of our witnesses. I'm sorry that the technical issues took away some of our questioning time. And if there's anything further that you feel we should have in our report, please submit by writing, and we'll make sure that the analysts review and include pertinent information in our report that's coming up. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. I understand we have a little bit of committee business. Madame Bérubé, do you have a motion to bring forward?
Oui, Monsieur le Président.
Yes, I do.
J'ai pas compris.
Yes, you have the floor. Vous avez, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I wonder why I should present it this evening. Because it was approved by the subcommittee.
Comité plénier. Oui. Un instant, s'il vous plaît.
Just a moment, please.
I think it's important that we make it clear that our amazing witnesses don't have to stay for this part unless, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that. It's been like juggling those burning.
Marcy, Nakamik.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's like juggling chainsaws.
Merci. J'apprécie. Good night.
In our normal business, when we're all meeting in person, we would have a slight social gathering to exchange best wishes, and we'll do that technically. Thank you so much. Madame Bérubé, do you have your motion for us?
Un instant, s'il vous plaît.
Just a moment, please. Yes. Shouldn't be too long.
Voici ma motion.
Here's the motion. That pursuant to Standing Order 1082, the committee resume and complete its study on food security in northern communities undertaken during the first session of the 43rd Parliament, and that the evidence and documents received by the committee at that time be considered by the committee during the current session, and that the committee report its recommendations.
Heard clearly the motion? If so, in our virtual setting, I'll ask if we have unanimous consent to approve the motion by doing the following. Is there anyone who opposes the motion? And I see no opposition to the motion, so I will assume that, but we have unanimous consent for Madame Bérubé's motion. And once again, thank you for that. We will move on to our next meeting next Tuesday, and I'll ask all parties to make sure their witness lists are updated by Tuesday, December the 1st, and notify the clerk accordingly. I believe we still may want to hear from parties regarding witnesses. So please do that before December the 1st. And with no further business at hand, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.